Hi, I'm Kesenya and welcome to Guiding Star Astrology. I'm your Astro Weather Girl, here with this week's Astro Weather Report. I'm going to show you how the stars are going to affect your life this week. To get the most out of this video, listen to the introduction to understand what is going to happen astrologically this week and when it will occur. Then use the timestamps in the description box or comments section below to go to your sun, moon and rising signs to see how things will generally affect you. This is a general read of the astrological energies that will be playing out this week. For a specific assessment of how the planetary energies will affect you personally, I would suggest getting a reading with a professional astrologer. You can do so with me through the Guiding Star Astrology website. If you're new to astrology, you are so welcome on this platform. If you would like to learn to read your own astrology chart, you can do a short, fun course with me for $35 Australian. The link is in the description below. Thank you to all my YouTube subscribers and my Patreon family members. Without you, this video and its message would not be possible. Well, hello, beloved friends in YouTube land. It is terrific to be with you this week with the Astro Weather Report. And this week we are looking at the energies that are playing out on the 8th of August through to the 14th of August. So quite a fascinating week of energies, I've got to say. So this video is going up on Saturday the 7th. And so we're looking from tomorrow forward, the 8th. And so the 8th of August is a very interesting date. It's the 8th month and the 8th day of the 8th month. And it's considered in numerology to be quite significant because of this 8 energy. And I'm no numerologist, but 8 energy I do know has to do with power and strength and prosperity and wealth in general. And if you're living a life path that has the number 8 in it, these components will be a very important focal point of your journey. So this time of year does correspond to this 8 energy if you're into numerology. Now, astronomically, it's also quite an interesting time of the year. Now, what is happening usually around this time of year, it changes date every year. Like last year, astronomically, we had the events I'm going to talk about occurring around the 16th. This year, it's happening around August the 11th. And I'm talking about the helical rising of the fixed star Sirius. Now, let me tell you a bit about Sirius. It is one of the most fascinating stars culturally and astronomically in the sky. I probably should change that perspective. Like there are many fascinating astronomical stars, but because of Sirius's association with human culture, human history, human ceremony, and so forth, we find that Sirius is quite intriguing. First of all, it's the brightest star, not the brightest scar, the brightest star in the night sky. It is 40 times as bright as our sun. It is also in a binary system with our sun. That means they circle one another in a very long, drawn-out process, which I'll talk about a little later in this video. But the helical rising of Sirius means that Sirius appears for the first time outside of the sun's rays, outside of the sun's glare. So it's been hidden in the glare of the sun for the last 70 days. Now, I often talk about this when I'm talking about Venus being invisible, Mercury being invisible, Mars being invisible, because they're too close to the sun. Jupiter goes invisible, all planets go invisible when they're too close to the sun and we can't see them from our vantage point here on Earth because they're lost in the glare of our nearest and therefore to us, our brightest star in the sky. So here in the glare of the sun is Sirius, the brightest star in the night sky. It has been invisible for 70 days because it's in the glare of the sun, hidden from our sight. Now on the 11th of August, at least here in the Southern Hemisphere where I live, it is going to appear for the first time since it went invisible 70 days ago, and that will happen in the morning. It will rise as the morning star and be visible at that time, just as the sun's about to come up. So a fascinating time, the helical rising of Sirius. What does this actually mean? Well, let's take a big picture look at Sirius. The ancient Greeks and Romans referred to this time of the year, or the helical rising of Sirius, as the dog days, or the dog day, because Sirius is astronomically situated in a constellation known as Canis Major, the dog constellation, and it is known as the dog star. So dog days have to do with this position of Sirius in the sky. Dog days have come to be known in the northern hemisphere as the hottest time of the year, high summer. It's not the case in the southern hemisphere, where in our sort of intense winter period, but in the northern hemisphere, dog days correspond to heat and the heat of summer. So it was believed by the ancient cultures that these dog days brought problems to humanity that were associated with heat: fevers, rashes, sweating illnesses, fires, things like that have to do with heat. I know there's been a lot of fires all over the world in the northern hemisphere in recent days as well. So that's what we're seeing represented by Sirius and its helical rising in the tradition of the ancient Greeks and Romans. It's difficult to ignore the astronomical synchronicity with these beliefs about heat, knowing that Sirius is actually 40 times hotter than our own sun. It is far more powerful as a star and packs out more heat, obviously. So there we go. But Sirius is also associated with dogs and with wolves through many, many ancient cultures, not just the Greek and Roman. It was a very prominent star in the ancient cultures of Egypt and Sumer. Purportedly, it was very important in the Dogon tribe in Africa. And these ancient cultures tended to monitor and revere Sirius as a very important star, as I said. So ancient Egyptians, for example, they used a 30-day lunar calendar that was aligned to the rising of Sirius. The helical rising of Sirius sort of defined when their calendar, their 30-day lunar calendar, began and so forth. And so they looked to the rising of Sirius also to herald the flooding of the Nile. When Sirius rose, it was time for the Nile to come in, to flood, to bring more silt and more abundance to all the crops that were grown along the banks of the Nile and that flourished through the prosperity of the Nile and its system of flooding annually. So the rising of Sirius heralded that in ancient Egypt. It was also the star connected to the god Anubis in ancient Egypt, and Anubis was considered to give protection and safe passage for human souls to go to the realm of the dead. So thousands of years ago, the rising of Sirius, the helical rising of Sirius, occurred around the 21st of June. This would have been in very ancient Egypt. And this was at the summer solstice, which occurs around the 21st of June. So in these ancient cultures, it was the fact that it helically rose at the solstice was one of the reasons Sirius was an important part of their cultural celebrations and beliefs. If you're into ancient astronaut theory, there's also a lot of significance given to Sirius as an associated planet for visits from ancient aliens and so forth as well. But and of course in Egyptian times that was the ancient alien theory is tied in there with ancient Egyptians and so forth. So but back to the astronomy, it's through the procession of the equinoxes that Sirius now rises at a different time of year, thousands of years later, since ancient Egypt culture first made Sirius such a prominent part of their belief systems. Now we have Sirius having its helical rising in mid-August rather than around mid-June. So as I mentioned, Sirius is in a binary system with our sun, and it's because of this 26,000 year cycle where they circle one another that these two celestial heavyweights influence us and pack a punch with us because of what was known as the procession of the equinoxes and Plato's great year. Now, I've talked about this extensively in other astro weather reports. I have a video all about it. Check out the link below. I'll pop it in the description box if you want to know more about Plato's great year or the procession of the equinoxes and how this actually affects us. But basically, the closer that Sirius and our sun get together every 26,000 years as they circle each other with this sort of motion, when they come to their closest point to one another in this binary system, that's when humanity reaches its highest level of consciousness and awareness. We use 100% of our brain. And then the cycle dissipates and the two stars move out to their furthest point from one another, which is the cycle we are just emerging out of, the Kali Yuga, the cycle when human consciousness is at its lowest. But the closer that the sun gets to Sirius in this binary system, the higher the consciousness raises. And that is one of the reasons why Sirius is known to represent the consciousness of God. Interesting that it has that association in various cultures and ancient cultures as well. So they were aware of this cycle of the ages, the procession of the equinoxes, the cycle of the yugas. And so the closer we are to Sirius, the greater our God consciousness becomes. Now, in astrology, the star Sirius is located, I'll draw it on the board here. It's in the sign of Cancer at around 14 degrees. So let's draw my little funny looking star there, at around 14 degrees of the sign of Cancer. And it is a star of spiritual leadership. Likes going for a walk, obviously, too. It's the representative of a divinely inspired but warrior kind of leadership. It's purported to carry the energy of Mars and Jupiter. Jupiter being high spirituality, truth-seeking, beliefs and ethics and morals, and Mars, the fighter, the warrior, the Wonder Woman, the Superman. I'm going to go, change the world. Away I go, up and away. So the energy of these two planets is considered to be present in the energy of Sirius. So what do we get when we've got Sirius at a prominent point in our chart? Well, we get people who are fighters for truth. This is especially true if we happen to have either Mars or Jupiter at the degree 14 degrees of Cancer, the degree of Sirius. Or if we have the sun, the moon, or our ascendant there, it makes it very strong in our natal chart as well. So check out your chart. If you've got any of those planets or your ascendant at that point, then you'll know that maybe you're a fighter for truth, or maybe there is an element of spiritual leadership in you. These beneficial aspects too can bring empowerment to when they're made to Sirius, especially in the realms of spiritual, divinely inspired leadership. So another thing that we see happening, and this is very prominent tomorrow when we've got that numerological event happening, the 8th of the 8th. This is not when the helical rising of Sirius is occurring, but I always get a little bit concerned about a lot of the memes, a lot of the stuff you'll see on the internet around this time regarding what's called Lion's Gate. Because there's a lot of misinformation that's out there, and you have to be quite astute to figure out, okay, well, what's real and what's not. But the Lion's Gate is a theory which suggests that Sirius, on the 8th of August, lines up with the Earth and the Sun. I want to point out to you that this is not the case. Here is the Sun in the sky, in the sign of Leo, and here is Sirius. They're not in alignment with one another at all. So the Earth is sort of considered to be in the center. Now, if we were having an alignment of the Sun, Sirius, and the Earth, we would find that Sirius would be over here, opposite the Sun, in alignment, just like we get when we have a full moon where the Sun lines up opposite the moon. But that is not what is occurring. So if you see any memes online around the 8th saying, oh, the Sun is in alignment with Sirius, it is not in alignment with Sirius. Just need to point that out. So keep in mind also that on the 8th, Sirius will not be visible in the sky. It won't be visible until the 11th of August when it makes its helical rising. Now, the Lion's Gate, the truth about Lion's Gate is that it's actually a new age celebration of the Sun being in its own sign Leo around the same time of the year that helical rising of Sirius is occurring, and we've also got this energetic number of 8 being active. So these things aren't actually lining up all on the same day. The Sun is in its own sign Leo. We have this numerological energy of 8-8, but a couple of days later is when we'll get the helical rising of Sirius. But this is where the whole Lion's Gate theory is, it's what it's in the New Age circles purported to be founded in. Now, what is interesting is that the rising of Sirius does occur at a time when the stars of Orion's belt, which is Alnitak, Alnilam, and Mintaka, will all be in alignment with the pyramids of ancient Egypt. So they all line up around this time of year. The pyramids of Giza. So New Age spiritualists consider this combination of energies to be quite lucky and therefore a good time for doing ceremony, particularly pertaining to manifestation. So you can do those, if you want to, you can do manifestation ceremonies if that's something that you are into, and you're into numerology and you feel that the alignment with the pyramids is important and the helical rising of Sirius is important. If that's what you're into, then go for it. One thing though that I feel that this year is going to be very important for around this time is the fact that we are having a fabulous new moon in Leo occurring at this time. So here is the moon on the 8th of August in alignment with, or in a conjunction, I should say, with the sun. I talk all about that on my Patreon channel, where I've broken down what this Leo new moon is going to bring for all signs. So if you want to check that out, head to the Patreon page. The link is in the description box below. So just to quickly mention about new moon ceremony though, it's not a good idea to do manifestation ceremony under a new moon. I talk about this every month on my Patreon channel. It is not a good idea because the moon is invisible and we need the moon to manifest. If we want to manifest something, the moon has to be visible in the sky. It will not be visible in the sky on the 8th. So if you are into this new age theory about Lion's Gate, you might be a bit disappointed because if you do manifestation ceremony under the new moon, it is less likely to manifest for you. The right energy space will not be present due to, well, it can be present. You can generate right energy space regardless of where the moon is, but the manifestation is less likely to occur because the moon is invisible. So it's up to you. If you want to do Lion's Gate ceremony, go for it. But as I tell my patrons every month, we are best to wait till a couple of days later when the moon has that fingernail sliver in the sky and starts to be seen, and that's a good time to be doing ceremony for manifestation. Prior to that, you can go within, do evaluation and assessment of where you're at and what you want, and do lots of internal processing under the new moon. Perfect time for that, but the actual manifestation ceremony or creation of right energy space shouldn't really occur until the moon becomes visible. Lo and behold, it's going to become visible around the same time as the helical rising of Sirius will occur. So save your manifestation for that day rather than the purported Lion's Gate. All right, so I wanted to talk about that because it's a fascinating, very, very interesting topic, and I wanted everyone to know the truth, to be clear about the astronomy and the astrology regarding the current configurations in the sky pertaining to Sirius. So what else is going on this week? Well, we have the best days this week for accomplishing stuff or setting intentions or taking action are occurring. There's quite a few good days this week, and that's the 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, and 14th. All good days. That's Melbourne time, basically when we've got the moon in the sign of Leo. Sorry, not in the sign of Leo. Moon in Virgo and Libra is really what you want to manifest well. So check before you go taking action in your part of the world, is the moon in Virgo or Libra. Also be very conscious of the moon being void of course. Avoid instigating any new action or doing anything under the void of course moon. You might need an app like iLuna to be able to ascertain whether the moon is void of course or not. If we do anything while the moon is void, of course, usually nothing comes of that endeavor. If you don't want anything to come of that endeavor, then do it under the moon being void, of course. But if you do want something to come of the actions that you take, then do it when the moon is not void, of course. Keep that in mind as you're looking at those manifestation best days this week, as I said. So what are we focusing on this week for all signs? Well, there's a lot of energy going on. Do subscribe to my newsletter or check out my Facebook and Insta pages if you would like to know daily what is happening in the skies and how it will affect you. But we're going to focus on one energy, well, actually two energies this week, because they kind of tie into each other. The important energies this week, I feel, are going to be, firstly, Venus making an opposition to, here is Venus in Virgo, an opposition to Neptune. Now, this is occurring from Virgo to Pisces. And on the 10th of August, this is not an easy energy for relationships. It's not an easy energy for finances. Venus rules relationships and finances mostly. Like, it rules lots of other things too, like forgiveness and self-love and stuff like that. But for narrowing it down to be as succinct as possible, relationships and finances mostly. Now, Venus and Neptune is the higher octave of Venus energy, but they're in opposition to each other. So when Neptune is in a hard aspect with another planet, we tend to get the shadow side of Neptune energy manifesting. And what might that be? Well, it could be deception, confusion, and struggles with Venus issues, finances, and relationships. So if you have been struggling with finances, if you've been struggling with relationships prior to the 10th of August, and do check out the time in your part of the world when this will be occurring, then the energy of the 10th of August is not going to help you very much to make a change there. Confusion, like I said, is a hallmark of Neptune hard aspects. So close up the purse strings, don't go shopping. Don't, go jumping online and spending a ton of money, because you might buy something and then think, what the hell? Why did I buy that? Oh, and you confusedly, you purchase something that you don't need or you don't end up wanting, that kind of thing. Don't message that new lover that you just met or that new boyfriend or girlfriend, because there could be confusion about the message that you send and misunderstandings about the message that you send that person. Put any beauty treatments on hold. It's not a good energy on the 10th of August to go and get any significant beauty treatments done. Don't get on that internet dating site. I avoid them these days at all costs. They've been just too horrific for me. So I'm steering clear on the 10th of August. You'll just be confused by what you find on there. Won't be a day for actually generating any success on those internet dating sites. Be very careful of your interactions with others as well. So partners, relationships, lovers, especially also young women. Venus is ruled by young women. And this energy of the 10th of August is a trigger for people taking advantage of us. So young women may either be taken advantage of by somebody, or young women might take advantage of us and our kind hearts and our charity and our benevolence. So that can happen. Deception is in the air under this particular opposition. So what is open to us under this energy on the 10th of August, and without any guilt, without any, hang-ups, is the chance to enjoy beauty, art, music, food, dancing, glamour, which are the things that both Neptune and Venus rule. So if you can enjoy these things without spending any money to do so, so much the better. Twirl away in your lounge room. You might like to sort of go out for a nice dinner, or have friends over, do some hospitality for dinner, anything that enjoys sort of refined cultural appreciation. Dancing particularly, I would say, because both rule dancing and music. So enjoy those things. Get your arty self on under this energy. But by the 12th of August, so 2 days later, we're moving out of this energy and into a beautiful Neptune trine to Pluto here. That is going to be a good one. It's a transformative energy. So the troubles that we have on the 10th of August will tend to transform and change and shift on the 12th. This is when our relational situation can take a turn for the better, as can our finances, as can the strength of our intuition as well. Pluto is heightened intuition, and if we are a woman, particularly a young woman, we may notice that our intuition is increased. We can also receive some sudden windfalls. Helpful negotiations with powerful people can occur on the 12th of August. We might have increased desires, because both Venus rules desire, and Pluto is the higher octave of Mars, which is passion. Those very deep emotions like jealousy and obsession and those kinds of things. So the increase of our passion, our desire, happens in a good way. Nothing to fear here. In a good way between Pluto and Venus in trine. We can also undergo big transformational, because Pluto is transformation, transformations in our appearance through this benevolent interaction as well. So what might that look like? Well, you name it. You might go for dye your hair a different color. You might throw out all your old clothes and renovate your wardrobe and have buy a whole new set of clothes or something. There can be big renovations. Pluto rules renovations and transformation to our image and our physical expression of self. Venus is our beauty. So what does this mean for all signs? Let's make a start. And you know what? We've been focused a lot starting over this side of the chart for quite some time. You know what? I'm going to start down here with Pisces. I'm going to start opposite. All right, Pisces. What is going on for you this week with this energy? Well, you need to watch out for, in the beginning, on the 10th of August, watch out for financial or relational deception and confusion to do with all other people for you, because Venus, the planet that's being impacted by these heavy-duty outer planets, is in the house of others. So on the 10th of August, watch out for being deceived by clients, 7th house, partners, spouses, business partners, any collaborative kind of colleagues and that sort of thing, where you're in a business collaboration together with one another. Watch out for being deceived or having the wool pulled over your eyes or being in a state of confusion with those kinds of people in your life. Also, because this is a house of contracts, watch out for any kind of deception with contractual situations or confusion with contractual situations. Read the fine print, or better still, get somebody to double check the contracts and fine details with you in terms of contractual arrangements, or if you need to sign on the 10th. If you can postpone it to maybe a day or two later, that would be better. So watch out for that on the 10th. But leading into the 12th, that's when things will shift and change. And so there can be a positive transformation of your financial situation with a partner, business partner, marriage partner, or a financial interaction with a client can change for the better. And relationships and connections might lead you to be able to take back your power. So, because Pluto is taking back our power, or it's a planet of power, and in a benevolent trine to Venus, you might be able to take back power where you've lost it with a partnership. Now, in a marriage, my ideal of what a good marriage is where partners are equal and no one partner has the greater power than another. But equal partnerships are very difficult to find on earth. Let's face it, we can seesaw between, power, who has the strength, who has the dominance in relationships quite a lot. I'm talking about marriage type relationships here. But yeah, so perhaps not so much marriage partnerships, but in business partnerships where you may have been deceived or you might have been confused, suddenly you'll get back the clarity, get back the understanding, and feel into your power once more in a business or client type situation with this circumstance. And your audience as well is also seen through this 7th house. Also, the any contractual situations that might have had things looking like you were going to lose your power or lose some finances could take a turnaround unexpectedly on the 12th as well. So, yep, looking good for Pisces. Aries rising, sun or moon people. On the 10th of August, with Venus in your 5th house, this is where you might be experiencing some financial or relational deception or confusion. So what does that mean? It means with employees. If you are an employer and you have a strong Aries rising sun or moon in your chart, then there could be some deception from your staff. Maybe your staff are a bit confused perhaps about some direction that you've given them potentially as well. There might be some confusion about finances with staff also. If you're not an employer, you might find that there's some financial or relational deception or confusion that might have to do with maybe you're helping someone, deal with some poverty situation or an illness or something like that. And, somebody, for example, might come to you and say, I don't have the money to pay for this treatment that I need to have this week. This 6th house is to do with any sort of disadvantage that we're in. Poverty, lack of education, health issues, and so forth. So someone, because, and I'm talking about a relationship situation because we're dealing with an opposition, which always indicates another person is involved. So somebody might come to you and say, hey, I need some money for a treatment, and I can't afford it. And with your big compassionate heart, you give them the money for the treatment, and then, you're down the street a couple of hours later and there they are partying it on with all their mates, and you're like, but hang on, I thought I gave you the money. So deception regarding some sort of service that you're offering to others or that you're giving to others, and you confused about, well, hang on, did you use that money for the treatment, or are you just going out and buying a round of beers for everybody? That kind of thing, where we're dealing with people who are not in quite as advantageous situations as we are in life, and we get the wool pulled over our eyes financially and with regard to what that relationship's all about too. So I hope you're getting the picture here. So what else could happen? Well, we might be needing treatment ourselves, and maybe a treatment provider pulls the wool over our eyes or charges us too much money. It could even be by accident, mightn't be intentionally, and we end up paying more than we're meant to, or we have some sort of a deceptive occurrence happening with somebody who's trying to sort out our finances for us, or give us opportunity for education, or somebody who's trying to help us with a health issue. We might go try and join a gym and they overcharge, or that kind of thing. So watch out for those kind of scenarios also. Things can improve though by the 12th, when we move into the trine of Venus with Pluto, and we can take our power back. So you might have tried to join the gym, they might have overcharged you, and so by the 12th though, you've sorted it all out and you've transformed the situation, and it actually works out for the best, because they're going to give you a month's free gym membership, because they're sorry for you've got your money back and we're sorry for the inconvenience. Here, have a month's free membership. So that kind of thing can actually transform for the best by the 12th. And the scenario where you were giving money to a person for treatment and you felt like you were deceived by them, well, maybe the transformation might be that the person pays you back with interest or something, and the relationship is given back its power. So the dynamic can shift and change for the better by the 12th. Hope that all is making sense for you. Taurus rising, sun or moon people. Well, on the 10th of August, we're having an opposition between Venus and Neptune, and this is happening in the 5th house, which could indicate that there might be some Venusian-style deceptions that have to do with lovers or children, potentially. What might this look like? Well, a child might come to us and say, Mom, we've got an excursion at school and I need $100 for the excursion at school. And you're like, here you go. Have your $100 for the excursion at school, and then you find out that they've gone and bought the latest edition of Fortnite or some computer game or something with it instead, and you're deceived by your child, There's confusion with a situation with a child or a lover regarding finances, or regarding, well, where we're really at with this dynamic of our relationship. I trusted you, my son or daughter who's gone and bought that computer game. I trusted you, and now I'm a bit confused about the dynamic of our relationship here. Can I trust you in the future or not? That kind of thing. But then things can shift by the 12th of August, because by the 12th of August we then have a trine to Pluto, and we start to transform that situation, and we often can take our power back financially or relationally. So maybe the child comes to you and says, I'm sorry for deceiving you, Mom, and I'm going to I'm feeling guilty and I want to pay back the money, and so I'm going to clean the garage out for the next 3 weekends or something like that. And so there is this transformation of the relationship where the trust is restored, the power is put back into the relationship rather than taken away, and the finances can in some way or another be restored. Now, I've given you an illustration off the top of my head with a child, but of course the same situation can apply to a lover. There might be some deception regarding the relationship and some confusion perhaps regarding the relationship, but ultimately, by the 12th, it might be transformed, renewed, which is very much Pluto energy, to have something renewed and turned into something better than what it was before, perhaps, and where we can take back perhaps money or financial power where we lost it previously. So that's what we're seeing for Taurus rising, sun or moon people. Now, Gemini rising, sun or moon people. The energy, oh, we're going to go for a walk. Okay. The energy of Venus, firstly, opposing Neptune, is falling on an angular axis, which makes it a little bit more powerful when we have these kinds of energies playing out in angular houses. And so on the 10th of August, there is the potential to be deceived with Venusian things in the house of the maternal line, the family dynamic, or the intimate tribe. So it could be that someone in your intimate community deceives you financially or confuses you with regard to how the relationship is structured. Your mother might make a call to you out of the blue, and maybe she's very confused about something that you did and she's misunderstood it, because Neptune causes cloudiness and misunderstandings regarding Venus relationships, in this case with maternal family figures, 4th house. So you've sent maybe a nice card to your mum for something, and she's misread it or taken it the wrong way. She rings you and she's all upset. So this kind of thing on the 10th of August would not be unheard of. Financial confusion with a family matter or with a piece of property or land. 4th house is property and land, as well as these types of relationships with family members. So you might have signed a contract for a property or an apartment or something like that, and there's confusion. And hang on, 10th of August, things aren't working out as I thought they would, and I'm feeling like I've been taken to the cleaners regarding this property, or I'm feeling like my finances are precarious because of this. We're deceived, we're confused regarding a property agreement or a relationship with family. So that's the 10th of August, but by the 12th, Venus then moves into a trine with Pluto, and that's when we can get our power back and find that the situation will transform itself. The relationship, you clear it up with your mum, she finally understands what you were doing, and actually the relationship is restored, and maybe it's even better than what it was before because she finally appreciates that lovely card that you sent her or something. You might transform your financial situation with a family member. You gave them some money to invest on your behalf and you felt like you'd been deceived, but lo and behold, it actually manifested positively for you and brought you some benefit, and you get your money back through this investment that you'd made with a family member, for example. Also, as I mentioned, this is a house of real estate and property, leasing and buying and so forth. And so there can be some positive outcome to maybe you were feeling like you'd been ripped off by the landlord, or you shouldn't have signed the lease when you had, and you were deceived and confused. By the 12th of August, that could all have been resolved, and you might find that it actually turns out better than what you thought it would. Yes, you'd been charged too much for your lease with that property, but you know what? We're going to give you a free month's rent because that was our mistake and we're sorry for our mistake, so here you go, we'll give you a 3 months rent, and things can turn into a positive situation for your finances and maybe the dynamics where you've felt you've lost power regarding a property or a family member, and you can actually regain back that sense of power and equilibrium under this energy. So that's the general gist of what we would be seeing with this one. For Cancer rising, well, you have your beautiful helical rising of Sirius occurring, which will be really, really lovely. And I talked about that in the intro. If you missed it, do check that out. But on the 10th of August, there can be some difficulties with Venusian-based things, relationships and finances, essentially, because Neptune is opposing Venus in your 3rd house. And so you might be deceived by a relative or a sibling. There might be some confusion about the dynamics of the relationship that you've got with a sibling or a relative. Excuse me. You might find that even friends, things could be a little bit confused. You might lend a friend some money and they misspend it in a way that you didn't think they would do, and there can be some deception there. Friends, relatives, teammates, workmates, siblings. So that is the dynamic that we're looking at here. It could also mean, this is the house of small business and using our skills to make money, and we might invest financially in our skills or so on, and we might then feel like confusion about that, or like, oh my God, I shouldn't have done that. That was a stupid thing to do, to invest money into promoting that skill when maybe I feel like I'm out of my depth with that skill. What was I thinking? That kind of, I'm confused about what I've done. Was that the right thing to do for my business or not, to invest that money? And of course, as I said, the Venus's relationships, relational deceptions and confusions with those people groups I mentioned a moment ago. But by the 12th of August, Venus will begin to move out of this connection with Neptune and instead move into a trine, beautiful benevolent trine with Pluto. And that can see us gain our power back. So where we felt we might have lost some money by investing in our skills or our small business, suddenly we start to see, oh, hang on a minute, that's actually paid off. That advertising campaign actually is working. Here I am thinking that it was a waste and what had I done? And look at it, it's really starting to bring in some powerful connections that I'm delighted about. We can see positive transformation with a sibling or a relative or a teammate or a workmate or a workshop group that we're in or something. And we can transform the dynamic that we had with those particular people groups. We can transform the financial situation that we were in with those people, and it can turn out for the best. We might have loaned a brother or sister some money. We might have thought, oh, hang on, they've gone and been all frivolous with that. Why did I lend them money? Dull. And then by the 12th of August, we can see, oh, hang on, I'm really glad I did that. And look, it's really helped them. And I actually feel that has made our relationship deeper and strengthened our relationship rather than undermined it. So we can see a big transformation and turnaround with the dynamic we have with siblings, relatives, co-workers, etc., because of the movement into a positive trine with Pluto. Okay, Cancer to Leo rising, sun or moon people. We're seeing the energy of, firstly, on the 10th of August, Neptune opposite Venus in the second house. For Leo people, it's a very wise idea to be just very cautious financially on this day. Just bottom line is, just shut up the wallet, put the credit card, away, and just don't spend on this. I mean, if you need to buy groceries, go and get groceries. If you need to pay the rent, but don't make any big financial exorbitant investments or, big, purchases under this energy, because it's a day for being deceived. It's a day for being confused about finances. You might buy something like a brand new couch or something like that, and you get the couch home to your house and it doesn't fit properly, or why did I buy this couch? I actually don't like it, it's yucky. So we can be confused about our purchases and deceived about our money. So be careful. But by the 12th of August, we move into this lovely trine with Pluto to Venus, and that gives us our power back, or it leads us to a point of transformation with our financial situation. So we might, hopefully this doesn't happen. Hopefully you've got my warning sort of in the back of your mind. But if you do go and buy that very expensive and horribly ugly couch, then, you might find that by the 12th of August, they're willing to take it back. And you'll get your money back. You can transform your financial situation that you thought was, oh my God, no, into something that, okay, I'm going to get my money back and it's all okay. I'm taking back my power there. You might also find that something that you purchased, some sort of resource for your life that you are using, turns out to be disappointing in some way on the 10th of August. And then on the 12th of August, you might actually find that it works out in your favor. So for example, let's use the couch example again. You've purchased a couch, you get it home, and you notice that the stitching is falling apart. And you're like, oh my goodness, I've paid all this money and look at the stitching, it's all coming apart. So you feel like you've been deceived, paying, top dollar for something that is pretty shonky. And so you go back to the furniture store and say, look, I'm not happy with this and it's falling apart. And they say, look, we'll give you the money back. We're really sorry about this. We're going to recall all these couches that we've sold because they're dodgy. And in fact, we're going to give you a free voucher to spend in the store as an apology. So things could transform for the better through this aspect, in a surprising way that actually puts you in a better position. I'm just giving you like silly little example, but that kind of thing can happen where on the 10th of August we struggle, there's an issue, deceived, confused, and then by the 12th it's resolved, we take back our power and we have positive transformation. So that's what we're seeing for Leo people. Now for Virgo rising, sun or moon, well, Venus is falling in your first house. And so when we have sort of these kind of aspects occurring in angular houses, it kind of intensifies them. Angular houses are very powerful houses, the cardinal houses. And so Neptune is opposite Venus in the cardinal axis of first house, seventh house. So it's relationship dynamics where there might be some pressure. In this case, it's happening with an opposition, so that indicates that there's going to be somebody else involved in any of the tension that you feel on this day. So even though Venus is in the house of you, your first house, because the difficult aspect is an opposition, there will be someone that triggers some sort of difficulties within you, you know. You might start to worry about your finances or feel unsure about your finances because of something somebody else does in your life. So, you know, not that you've given your money away and they're gone and spend it all and now you're poor and broke and financially destitute. It's not that sort of thing. It's more that someone plants a seed of doubt, a seed of worry or a seed of disappointment or concern in your mind, and you start to go into, oh, my money is not safe, Venus's finances, or there is some sort of seed of doubt or deception that's planted in your mind that causes concern about a relationship as well. So just to contrast, when we were talking about Pisces energy is when Venus is in the house of the other person. Therefore, there is a dynamic playing out with the other person that causes the tensions, and etc., etc., etc. But when Venus is in the house of you, the problem is actually within you. Now, it's potentially through a perception of another person that you have, or a mindset that you have about somebody else. So there's that external trigger. But the issue is actually within yourself. So, you might feel financially deceived even though you're not. Or you might feel relationally confused even though there's no grounds for feeling confused. Venus opposite Neptune. So I hope you're understanding the difference there. But the thing is that on the 12th of August, 2 days after Venus opposes Neptune, Venus will trine Pluto, and this can bring your power back. And suddenly that seed of doubt that you were carrying, that concern, that worry, it's transformed. And suddenly you see things for what they are, and your intuition's really on point, and you realize, I was mistaken, that relationship is not doomed that way, or that financial situation is nothing to worry about. And we have a positive transformation of what we were experiencing with finances and relationships, which gives us a sense of personal power once more. Venus in the sign of Virgo, making this opposition, and then a trine. So look forward to that. You will feel more empowered on the 12th of August. All right, so Libra rising, sun or moon people. Oopsies, get that right. The energy of Venus opposing, first of all, Neptune on the 10th of August is falling for you in the 12th house. And so you guys, Libran people, need to be very careful of loss. Very careful of loss, because Venus is in the house of loss, where things end and conclude. It's the last house of the horoscope. We lose something, like, sometimes losing things is not bad. If I lose my anger, that's a great thing. If I lose a friendship that was driving me up the wall and that I really didn't like, well, I'm actually kind of glad about that. So when we lose something, it's not always a bad thing. But do be careful under the energy of Neptune opposition Venus in the house of loss, Venus ruling finances, Venus also ruling relationships. You might find that there is some confusion around the loss of a relationship, or around the loss of some money. There's some deception around the loss of a relationship, around the loss of some money. So, you might have spent some money on something and then you start scratching your head, oh, hang on, should I have done that? You might have given a big bequeathment to a charity organization. And then you start to doubt what you've done. So you've given this money away, you've lost that money, but in a good way, like giving it to a charity and so forth. And then you start to go, oh, hang on a moment, scratch my head. Should I have given that much money away? Is that going to affect my tax? And I feel like I've made a confused decision here and I shouldn't have done that. Or I feel like I was deceived into giving that much away. Remember, the 12th house has to do with being charitable. And you feel like you've been deceived and had the wool pulled over your eyes about some charity where you have given or lost some finances for that purpose. So Neptune can be triggering that there. You might also, in the positive sense, you might lose some attitude or behavior from a previous incarnation, because this is the house of past lives. And so under this energy, you might be triggered to lose some old idea or perception or understanding that you've been carrying for a few lives. But in losing that, you're kind of like, well, who am I really? If I'm not identified as that belief or as that, concept that I've carried through with me maybe for many lifetimes, well, who am I? And you become confused about who you are in this incarnation, in this lifetime, because you've lost, I hope I'm making sense here, because you've lost some identification with a previous lifetime. So there can be some confusion, there can be disillusionment that occurs. But by the 12th of August, that is when we start to take our power back. And this is because Venus will make a trine to Pluto. And so where we thought we'd lost a lot of money by giving it away to a charity, and then we thought better of it and thought, oh my goodness, no, we can suddenly, receive a call from the head of the not-for-profit organization or charity, and where the guy or girl who rings us is like, well, we really appreciate what you've done and we want to honor you for that and thank you, and would you like to, speak at our next function or whatever. And there's a positive transformation of something that you thought was a situation of loss in your life. There's a positive transformation because of a beautiful, beneficial trine. And in a sense, you can take your power back as well and regain maybe, a sense of maybe confidence that you'd lost, or, maybe you might get money back where you've lost it. If it wasn't a donation or if it was for something else and you felt like you'd lost your money, you might get it back. There is this positive transformation of financial situations and relational situations as well. I mentioned a moment ago, Librans, that there might be a loss of some old attitude, some old belief system from previous incarnations that you've been carrying in your psyche. This can actually turn out to be very good. So while you might be confused about, well, who am I now that I've let go of that old identification, by the 12th of August, you're transformed. You've left that identification behind, and now you're more established in self-love. Venus rules self-love. Or you're more empowered on your journey in some way in this lifetime because you've let go of those things. So Pluto is to empower us. Ultimately, what he wants to do. Sometimes we wonder what the hell Pluto's up to, but yeah, Pluto can bring positive transformation when he's in a trine in this manner. So you might find that while it felt like loss to change your perspective at first, then ultimately by the 12th you might be sitting in your personal power, embracing this lifetime, this journey, and your understanding in this incarnation far more. So I hope you're understanding how this energy can play out. There looks like big transformation for a lot of signs regarding many things that Venus rules this week. Okay, Scorpio rising, sun or moon people. The energy of, is that going to stay? Yes, it is. Okay, the energy of Venus in Virgo making a trine to Neptune for you guys is falling in the 11th house. So do watch out for deception by friends or deception by large groups or clubs or organizations where they might, trick you out of some finances or, deceive you about the nature of the relationship, perhaps. It's a pretty heavy duty energy, Venus opposite Neptune. So, you might come across a not-for-profit organization and they're rah about whatever their particular platform is, and you donate a heap of money or something to it, and then you think, well, hang on a minute, they're not putting it towards that. Half of the money I've paid goes towards admin costs, and you feel deceived, you feel confused about this financial Venus contribution that you've made to some cause or charity or something like that. That can be the case. There might be a situation where a friend comes to you and asks for a loan for some money for XYZ circumstance, and you feel like you're being used, or you feel like you're being deceived by this friend, you know, that they've pulled the wool over your eyes financially. Or maybe it's about the relationship, you know. You might speak to your friend about a certain circumstance and they say, oh, no, that wasn't me at all. And you're like, but hang on, I thought you know, and you end up feeling confused about the friend or the friendship circle or the particular social situation that you're in. So I hope I'm making sense here. I know I'm talking quite fast today. My brain's kind of on fire for some reason. So I hope I'm not getting ahead of where people are at. So financial or relational deception and confusion with friendships, large groups, group organizations, humanitarian causes. Also, House of Goals and Dreams, you just be careful about investing money into your goals or dreams on this day. I wouldn't do it, because you could end up feeling deceived, you know, plowing money into sort of some aspiration that you've got. I wouldn't go into it under Neptunian energy. You could lose your investment in your goal and dream completely. Word to the wise there. But the 12th of August is going to see a shift, and that is when we're going to have Venus making a beautiful benevolent trine to Pluto. And this could lead to transformation of that financial circumstance and those relationships where we take back our power, where we restore. Pluto can restore things. And so we can renovate and restore our relationships with friends, our relationships with certain humanitarian causes and groups and organizations. We can transform the situation. For example, you know, we might have loaned a friend some money and we felt like we'd been deceived about what that money was going to be for. And then the friend comes back and says, well, look, you know, I did do what I said I was going to do with that money. Here, I'm paying you back. And I just want to take you out to lunch to say thank you. And it's like you actually end up in a better position with the relationship, with the finances, than you thought you were. So positive transformations regarding a circumstance with friends, groups, organizations, and social connections. Sagittarius rising sun or moon people, well, this energy is going to go for a walk for one thing, but no, this energy is falling on an angle. The 10th house, 4th house angle. And so it's very potent for Sagittarian people when we have these kinds of actions occurring on angles. So watch out for relational deception or financial deception from authority figures, bosses. You know, the boss says, hey, I'm going to take you out for lunch. We need to go and have some discussions about something. So you go out for lunch, you get there and they're like, oh, I left my credit card back in the office. You'll have to pay. And you feel deceived. You feel like, hang on a minute, my finances, Venus, I've had the wool pulled over my eyes here. I thought you were taking me out for lunch. And confusion, deception regarding some circumstance with a boss or an authority figure. We might feel a bit confused or deceived about our career circumstances and our situation with some sort of worldly achievement that we're trying to accomplish. We get a bit of foggy vision about it. We don't really know where we're going. It's not quite clear to us what we're doing. You know, we thought we were heading in a certain direction with our career and now not so sure. Something's happened, maybe through a relationship with others, because this is a relationship type dynamic when we've got an opposition. Something is happening that's leaving us very confused, or maybe in a situation of financial loss perhaps regarding a career. That can happen as well. But the thing is, on the 12th of August, things will shift and take a turn for the better, and sometimes resolve even the challenges that have been present. So Venus is going to make, on the 12th of August, a beautiful benevolent trine to Pluto, and this can lead to positive transformation of that financial situation. The boss might come to you on the 12th of August and say, hey, look, I'm really sorry I didn't have my credit card out for lunch the other day, so I'm going to pay you back that money and it's my shout today. So come on, let's go out and, talk about that promotion that I was going to talk to you about. So there can be a positive turnaround, some restoration of a circumstance with an authority figure, with a boss, or with your financial situation pertaining to career that might occur. You might get a pay rise. You might find that you can get back in the good books with a boss or a manager or someone like that, where the relationship dynamic, Venus is our relationships, is empowered. So that can be really good as well. We could also find that particularly the dynamics with female leaders, but also female people, Venus is the feminine energy, female people who are involved in our career aspirations can be benefited on the 12th. So, we might have, for example, somebody who's a graphic designer who is collaborating with us on some project or something like that. And on the 12th of August, we find that the dynamic that we've got, this isn't a house of partnership, but if it's to do with our career and our achievements, maybe the graphic designer is doing us an album cover for a new album we're going to release or something like that, then we could have a positive momentum around that dynamic with a female person who is helping us with our career endeavors. So we might get some clarity. We didn't know what we wanted for an album cover. And then on the 12th of August, suddenly, oh, right, she's designed it and it looks fantastic, and positive moves forward for helping my career to progress. So somebody feminine might be really interacting with you this week regarding maybe confusion to begin with on the 10th of August, and then helping you to take back your power and achieve something with your career aspirations. Hope that makes sense. Okay, so now Capricorn rising, Sun or Moon people, the energy of Venus in Virgo opposing Neptune on the 10th of August is falling on the axis of the 9th house to the 3rd house. And so this is where we might find our financial situation goes through some confusion, or some relational situation goes through some confusion. So for example, this is the house of mentors, people who inspire us, and we might get a word of inspiration from a mentor and we're like, hang on, can that really, it doesn't make sense to me. How can that be the case? I think, a lot of people, for example, were deceived, Neptune is deception, by the guru known as Ranjish, now referred to as Osho. And so that's an example of somebody who is an inspirational figure or a leader in some sort of spiritual realm, 9th house, who deceived people. I still think a lot of his teachings were very wise and worth taking on board, if not aligning to the practices of the fellow themselves. That's a whole other topic of conversation, but that's what we're kind of looking at here. You might find that some guru, some inspirational figure kind of deceives you or confuses you today through their teachings or their practices that don't line up with what you think is ethical and right. And so some deception there, confusion there. Financially, this is a house of overseas travels or cultural immersion in different cultures, and you might financially get into hot water through some trip, some going out to a cultural restaurant or something like that where it costs you much more than you thought it would. Financial deception, financial confusion that comes from a cultural circumstance, 9th house. That could be another way this manifests on the 10th of August. But by the 12th of August, things will shift, because by then Neptune will have moved into a trine with Pluto. And what is Pluto? To transform, to restore, to renew. And it will, when it's positive, that's the highest vibration of Pluto. And it will restore financial situations that we thought were precarious. It will sort of heal, perhaps, well, not so much heal, but it might transform a relationship that we thought was a bit dodgy, or our perception of an inspirational figure might reach some clarity, and we kind of restore that dynamic. In some cases, maybe even make it better. So, you might think, using the Osho example again, oh my goodness, he deceived a lot of people and he did some things that were really quite off. And then you read a book of his and it's like, well, you know what? He might have been a bit of a dodgy dude himself, but his teachings, I really do appreciate his teachings. And so there's sort of like a positive restoration of belief, if you like. And you learn, you take your power back. Pluto, take your power back. You take your power back and say, well, I can leave, but I will take on what I feel is in alignment with me regarding my beliefs, 9th house, through that person and the Osho organization now that spreads information. So I hope you're getting the idea here. You can take your own power back regarding some teacher, guru, wisdom giver or something. You can transform a financial situation where maybe it was in a state of upheaval. You know, you went overseas and you know, you thought you had like this happened to me in Romania. I was told by my bank here in Australia, you take this special travel card and that's what you use, and you leave your credit cards at home. So I left my credit cards at home, I took my travel card, and I got to Bucharest, and the hire car that I'd booked, they said, well, we need a credit card. If you don't have one, you can't have the hire car. And we were stuck with no way to get around because I had been let down by my banking organisation back in Australia, who gave me the wrong advice. And so again, that's exactly what we would see with a Neptune opposition in this sense. Traveling overseas, Venus opposite Neptune, being deceived or let down or confused about financial circumstances when traveling. But then along comes Pluto trine, and what happened to me was I had a beautiful friend in Bucharest, mwah, to you, Luba, who helped me out and got us back on track and helped arrange and organize our travel circumstances, and we got the money back from the hire car organization for the deposit I'd given them, and everything turned out really well. In fact, so well that we established a deeper, greater friendship with somebody who is overseas in another country now, a different cultural circumstance to us. So Venus is friendship. So very much that scenario I've just given you really fits with what's going on here. You transform a situation regarding finances, regarding a financial circumstance culturally and overseas, and maybe even change the dynamic of some relationships as well. So that's the kind of gist we're getting this week when we have Venus with an opposition to Neptune and then a trine to Pluto in the 9th house. Now, thank you, Aquarius, for hanging in there till the end of this reading. For you, this energy of Venus is falling in the 8th house this week. And Venus, to start with, on the 10th of August, will be opposing Neptune, and this is a difficult energy where we might feel some confusion and deception regarding finances and relationship circumstances that have to do with, well, our partner's finances or the intimacy that we have with a partner. Now that could be a marriage partner or a business partner, not that we have intimate relationships usually with our business partners, but let's start with the financial side of things. So it applies, this is the 2nd house from the 7th, so it's the resources of our business partners, the resources of our marriage partners, or the resources of our clients and just others in general. And there might be some deception here, Neptune opposition, regarding the status of a clients' finances. You know, they're claiming that, for example, oh, I can't afford to pay you for your services straight up, so could you give me a month to pay you for the services? And you agree to that, but then you see them, you know, down at the pub drinking beers with all their mates and shouting around for everybody after work, and you're like, but hang on, you know, this doesn't make sense. I'm confused here. What's going on? There might be, you know, you might be a husband and your wife goes out shopping one day and she comes home and she says, oh, there wasn't enough money in the bank account to pay for the groceries and the shoes that I wanted to buy. And the husband is confused, well, what's going on here? I feel a bit, you know, deceived. I'm sure there was plenty of money in the bank account. What have you been spending money on? And some financially difficult circumstance regarding a partner's money or the way a partner is spending money, and that can apply to, you know, just others in general, marriages, business partners, etc. Same goes for intimacy. There can be some confusion around intimacy, some confusion or even deception around intimacy. So obviously not so much business partnerships, but in a committed relationship, something might come out that, you know, you're feeling deceived. You know, maybe the partner gets home very late from work, you know, home at 11 o'clock at night, and you've had the dinner on the table for them since 7 o'clock. And you're like, what's going on here? I'm feeling that our intimate connection as a married couple is somehow, I'm having the wool pulled over my eyes here. I'm being deceived. I'm a bit confused. Why are you so late home from work? You know, sometimes, although there need to be many, many more things being triggered in the chart than just this playing out, but it could indicate maybe an affair might be going on or something like that. Like I said, there would need to be significant activation in your own chart and significant activation more than just one aspect. But if there are those other significant things going on, this is another trigger towards maybe an affair, or maybe you feeling like something is happening, even if you have no concrete evidence. Neptune is a confusing energy. It doesn't usually go for concrete facts, unfortunately. So it might just be a perception of something going on. So that's the kind of gist that we would get with an 8th house activation, Neptune opposite Venus. But 2 days later, on the 12th of August, we're having a beautiful trine from Venus, between Venus and Pluto. And so this can lead to transformation of those circumstances on the 10th of August. Suddenly, how your partner has been spending money makes perfect sense. Aha, that's where the money went. Look here in your bank statement, darling. You spent this and this and this, and that's why there was no money for the groceries and those shoes that you wanted. Things can make sense. We get positive transformation of our financial circumstances, of a partner's money. And suddenly, they thought they had no money in the account, but lo and behold, there's $800 sitting in a spare account. And you're like, oh, look, positive transformation of your bank account, sweetheart. All we've got to do is transfer that money from one to another. And so you do have the money there after all. Positive transformation of financial circumstances for a partner. Also, maybe positive, empowered transformation for a relationship where you take the power back into the relationship. So you've been doubting, the partner, I think they're having an affair, they're getting home late at night or whatever. And, there's that feeling I'm being deceived. When Neptune trines to Pluto, you might take your power back and you realize, oh, look, the boss just rang to say, he's really happy with how much work that my partner's doing, and he wants him to have the day off tomorrow because he has been working late a lot lately, really hard, and he appreciates it, and so we're going to go and have a day in the park together, and there's this positive transformation of an intimate relationship where we take back our power, or power is given back to us, or back to the relationship, I should say. The house of intimacy, the house of our partner's finances could be how this manifests for Aquarius people over the coming week. So, my lovely friends in YouTube land, it has been a joy to explore the energies of this week with you. I look forward to doing so again next week. Let's close with prayer. Energy of love in the universe, thank you that you're helping us to lift our vibration each and every week. There's so much going on in the world right now. It can be very scary, but you've shown us the way to live in love and to lift our vibration, to sort of deal with the heavy energies in the world right now. With the rising of Sirius this week, I pray that we tap into God consciousness, just as Sirius represents, so that our own vibration and our own energy is uplifted as Sirius becomes visible. That's my prayer for all of us here on the planet, and for me in my life, and for all my viewers, that we lift our God consciousness to align with the rising of Sirius this week. And thank you that the energy of love will flow through us as we do. And so it is. Thank you for joining me. I will have another video for you next week.